What's going on, everybody? Guys, we're talking ACC football. My name's Joe Wagner. I got Brent Allegra, Braden Wilkins in the booth here with me today. Guys, how are we feeling? How are we doing?
Dude, I'm excited to talk about the ACC. I'm wearing maroon. A lot of people might think it's for Virginia Tech. I mean, that's where I devote my fandom most of the time. But it's actually for Boston College, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Eagles, baby.
Braden, are you wearing
that's the first time I've heard
Boston
you say
College?
that, and I'll hold on to that one.
Not the Eagles of Philly.
Okay.
You got to
Joe,
take the
things
wins
have
where you can
changed
get them.
since we last talked.
Things have changed? And
Yeah.
in what way?
Right after we talked about the Pac-12.
It's
after we talked
interesting.
about the Pac-12, they just
It's interesting. That's on the itinerary. Interesting. So before we jump into that, exciting news. Excitement might be the understatement of the century. I have some other exciting news but it looks like my screen just froze, so that's fun.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, this has never happened before.
Always a pleasure.
Dude, at least you can still hear me. That must be a plus. As my entire computer just shut off for the first time in Sports Outlet Show history, I can see you guys again. Other than that, so I'm going to blame all domination and doom here on the person we have coming into the podcast, who I guess is just bringing all the bad energy. My personal friend from back home, who's joining the Hokies, is a Cavalier himself, and Connor Lothrop. Connor, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. It's been a long day, but I'm happy to be here. Get rid of that. Get rid of that.
Braden,
there are some words that I was told I cannot say.
Braden, I told you to not actually put that in there. Jeez.
Right.
All right, we're better. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Anyways, Connor, welcome to the show. I know it's your first time. Kind of give a spiel of where you're coming from, what you're doing, and just excited to talk ACC here today.
So hi, I'm Connor. I guess I'm now a fourth year rising engineering student at the University of Virginia. Go Hoos! And I am actually qualified to be on this podcast, believe it or not. This is my fourth year writing for the sports section of the school paper, the Cavalier Daily. And I just got off of a year of writing the UVA football beat, which was so depressing for a myriad of reasons. But I'm happy to be here. I'm coming to you live from sleepy Fort Washington, Maryland. So let's talk ACC. I've got so many Wake Forest takes, you're not going to believe it.
We got 3 different states represented here in Virginia, Oklahoma, and Maryland, then at least. So we're coming at you from around the globe, right? That's how that works? Maybe.
Yeah, around the DMV and also the DMVO.
The DMVO, which apparently there is a DMV in Oklahoma. I just found that out. So I don't know. I don't really know. But anyways, Braden touched on it a little bit. We're going to hint here for about 3 to 4 minutes on this. Pac-12, what happened? If you tuned in with us last week, we talked through the Pac-12 and the domination that is their quarterback room and the situation going around all the schools. We had our hot takes here on who we thought was going to leave. At the time, the conversation was only the Big 12. We thought one other team was leaving with Colorado. Something else happened. The Pac-12 turned into the Pac-4.
Hey, we were all right. We were all right on
we were all correct. We were all correct that they were leaving. We just didn't know that the Big 10 was poaching as many as they did. And then the Big 12 said, hey, we're going to come and take some of the scraps as well. It's the Pac-4 now. I think I pulled up the 4 teams that are remaining here. But it's not pretty. I know Cal's one of them, Washington State, Stanford. You guys might have to refresh my memory on the last one. Is it Oregon State?
It is Oregon State.
Okay. But
it is.
So it is now a Power 4 conference here with the Power 5 will develop into the Power 4. I have no idea what the Pac-12 is going to do. I think they should just merge with the Mountain West and form a conference. I don't know.
Hey, you want something consistent? Be a Mac fan. Mac.
Always
I can't
coming
argue
at
with
us-
it. I can't.
Always coming at us with the Mac shit. Do you want to talk about the Mac today, Brent? It's
do.
ACC or Mac.
Their conference hasn't had a shift in like 20 years.
Hey, it's because it's all about the money for the other conferences. They just care about football. All right. They just care about the love
Every
of the
day
game.
of the week.
Every day of the week. Every single day of the week. Anyways, that's the Pac-4, Pac-12, Pac-0 possibly here in the next couple months. I'm going to kick it right over to the guy wearing the maroon who said, "Let's go Philadelphia Eagles." Is that what he said?
Boston College, baby.
Okay. We'll go with them. Fly Eagles.
So up first, Joe and I have the pleasure of talking about the Boston College Eagles. Outside of those Virginia Tech Hokies, they're probably the best team in this conference. You can see it in their record right there. 3-9, 2-6 within the conference last season. Spectacular. The last time they won the division was 2009, but lost to those aforementioned Hokies 12-30 in the conference championship. Their head coach is Jeff Hafley, who has had a 15-20 record and is now entering his fourth season with the team. Currently, I'd say he's riding on the hot seat, though, unless he gets this team to 8 wins this season. The last regime was fired for Hafley because they were only notching 6-win seasons. So with that, Joe, take it away.
Yeah, Brent, you really gave a great intro there to Boston College. I love the enthusiasm you bring for these terrible teams. Anyways, their quarterback is going to be led here by the redshirt sophomore Emmett Moorhead. They're really excited about this guy. He's actually going to be the star point of this Eagles offense where there is not much. He threw for 1,200 yards last season, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. That is actually – he only started those final 4 games of that 12 season for Boston College. So 10 touchdowns, 6 picks in those 4 games that he actually had the reins on the offense is very respectable coming in an absolute S show of a team. My player to watch on offense is actually a graduate wide receiver, Ryan O'Keefe. He's the transfer coming in from the newly founded Big 12 UCF team. He popped off there over in Central Florida with 73 receptions, 725 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's looking to make a big impact here in the ACC, moving up for them. Well, I don't really know if I'd even consider moving it up for Ryan O'Keefe, but, I mean, more targets, more share, get your name in that NFL draft list by all means. Guy to look at on defense here is going to be Vinny DePalma. He's the Willside linebacker. He's a grad student. And if you guys have been listening through those first 3, those last 2, they graduate. This team is full of a bunch of vets. It's maybe a win now mode. I don't really know what to call it. They're up in Boston, but win now, I guess. Let's go with that one. He had 87 tackles, 49 of those were by himself or solo, a sack and a forced fumble as well. My game for them to watch is going to be week 4 at Louisville. It's actually week 4 is going to be their second ACC opponent after they are going to get absolutely smacked against Florida State. And this is a chance for them to maybe start the ACC respectable at 1-1. I mean, Boston College likes to surprise people a lot. Their basketball team has been on the up and up for as many years as I can say, but Boston College is one of the grittiest colleges I've ever watched playing sports. So really, as much as I've kind of been down talking them, never count them out of a football game, a basketball game. They have true heart over there with the Eagles. With that being said, I do see a step up here from 3-9 going to 5-7. I believe when you play with a ton of heart, you can win games in the ACC. So I have some sort of acknowledgement over what Jeff Hafley is doing for that team here coming into year 4, especially with his 15-20 record that is going to have some eyes pulling that maybe we need a change here. But I mean, you can go from Boston College. a team that hasn't had much of a mark on the ACC to a team that debatably has the entirety of a mark over the ACC. Braden, talk to me about the Clemson Tigers.
Last season, ACC champions, 11-3, 9-0 in the conference. They lost that Orange Bowl against Tennessee, 14-31. They last won the Atlantic Division, obviously, last year, and they beat UNC in the conference championship game, 39-10. Their head coach, we all know him, Dabo Swinney. It's his 16th year as Clemson's head coach. He's gone 161-39. It's a very, very impressive record for him. Dabo is something. He refuses to buy into the transfer portal, which is interesting. It's respectable. That results in a great amount of continuity throughout the team and little change. Their quarterback is Cade Klubnik. He's a sophomore. Last year, he threw for 697 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks in 10 games after Uiagalelei was kicked to the curb. He averaged 7 yards per attempt. He's going to need to be a little bit better this year if Clemson wants to repeat, but I think he has the talent, and I think he has a shot. My player to watch on offense is Will Shipley Jr. He's a running back. He had 1,182 yards, 15 touchdowns on 5.6 yards per carry.
Look at this coach taking off.
And there's
if he didn't have a habit of just beating the absolute tar out of UVA, I could almost like him. Almost.
I had to throw that in there.
Oh, yeah, it's a classic. You got it. My player to watch on defense is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's son of Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Famer Jeremiah the Axeman Trotter. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro one time. His son was a junior middle linebacker who led the team last year with 89 tackles and 13.5 tackles for loss. He was tied for first with first-round pick Miles Murphy to lead the team with 6.5 sacks. He also tacked on 2 picks, 5 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, and 1 defensive touchdown. This team has all the talent in the world, but there's 2 games that I got to watch for them coming up this year. The first one is week 4 against Florida State. Many people believe that Florida State is building to take the ACC away from Clemson this year. They can win this game to potentially lock up an appearance in the ACC title game early on and see how they stack up against one of the conference's best competitors. I also have week 13 at South Carolina. They lost last year in a heartbreaker at home to shut down any playoff hopes the team may have had. If all goes right in the ACC this year, Clemson has a chance to redeem themselves and lock up a playoff spot, this time in hostile territory. I had them losing one of those 2 games and losing the other one to Notre Dame, going 10-2 this season.
Running down the hill. That's all I got to say. I didn't wear the Clemson polo this year because I got respect for the Hokies all out this year. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Love it, Braden, there on Clemson. I'm excited to see the post – I'm not going to even pronounce his last name. The post-DJ era.
Braden did a pretty good job pronouncing that. I was looking to see if he was going to get that right.
I had to do I did Oregon State last week, so I had to look up the pronunciation and just get it down pat.
Can you say it 3 times fast though?
No, not even going to.
Not even going to try. It's what the people want.
No.
That's an assignment for next week. Okay. Speaking of a team that ran the ACC last year. Oh, let's talk about the Duke Blue Devils. Oh, wait, we're talking football, right? Sure. Okay. No, I'm completely kidding. The 2022 Duke Blue Devils had one of the most historic seasons I think they've ever had in football. They went 9-4, 5-3. They were more than a basketball school last season. I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was week 4. Undefeated Kansas versus undefeated Duke was one of the craziest sold-out games ever seen for Jayhawk Nation.
Great basketball matchup.
We're talking football. Didn't College Game Day go to that?
I think they did.
I'm like 1,000% positive they did.
I can't remember, but that would sound right.
Yeah. It was really weird. They played 5-on-5 with all white guys.
They're not playing basketball. Anyways, Kansas won that game 35-27, and Duke lost their first game of the year in week 4. They went 3-1 there, and then Kansas went up to 4-0. Duke had an absolutely crazy season that ended with kicking an absolute crap out of UCF in the Military Bowl, 30-13. I mean, it was a foundation year behind head coach Mike Elko going into his second season, starting 9-4 in his first. Like, absolutely incredible. And saying that the last time they won the ACC, and I'm going to throw up the quotation marks because they co-shared it with the Cavaliers, they won it in 1989. That is the last time they appeared, did anything in the ACC that was related to tossing a pigskin. Anyways, there was a main highlight, and he's returning this year as a junior. Junior quarterback Riley Leonard is absolutely played out of his mind last year, and saying that with less than 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns and 6 picks, he did have a 64 completion percentage. This team jumped on the back of Riley Leonard, and he literally rode them all the way to a 9-win season. He played phenomenal. Jalen Calhoun is their senior wide receiver. He was one of their top guys last year returning. He had 62 receptions, 873 yards, and tacked on 4 touchdowns as well. My biggest game for them, I mean, you saw him running down the hill. It's week 1 there at Clemson. And here's why. Let me jump back here to the defensive player. My guy to watch is Dwayne Carter. He's a redshirt senior defensive tackle. He had 36 tackles with 21 of those being solo. But he's really a dynamic guy. He had 5.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and 4 pass deflections there as a defensive tackle. So he was getting his hands up in between the passing lanes day in, day out. He was helpful there for the Blue Devils. My game for them to watch is week 1 at Clemson, and I literally wrote word for word. Was last year a fluke? ? Week 1 will decide it. Well, you guys can see what I put on here for the record, but I definitely think it was. I have Duke going at 4-8. Their schedule is actually extremely tough this season. I mean, you're kicking off the season in Clemson, South Carolina. How much harder does it get for ACC play? That game might be eye-opening to people. If that's something that Duke can come out and upset here in week 1, you guys have permission to fly to Oklahoma and slap me in the face. I mean, it happens in the ACC with bad takes all the time. I'm not.
Are you paying for tickets?
Plane tickets?
Yeah, you're paying.
You're
paying for the plane tickets.
I can get you football tickets. You guys just got to get down here.
We'll talk.
We'll talk after the show. We'll talk after. That's what I got for the Blue Devils. I'm going to pass it over here real quick to Brent with his first main team in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, up next we got the Florida State Seminoles. They went 10-3 last season and ended on a piping hot 6-game win streak. That 6-game win streak included their bowl game against Joe's Oklahoma Sooners. The Seminoles beat Oklahoma 35-32 on the backs of Jordan Travis and Johnny Wilson in one of my personal favorite bowls, the Cheez-It Bowl. The last time they won the division was 2014, where they took the conference over Georgia Tech 37-35 with the one and only Uber Groper Jameis. The head coach is Mike Norvell, who finally seemed like he turned things around in his 3rd season last year. Before that, he was 8-13. And those guys that I mentioned that were spectacular in the Cheez-It Bowl last season, Jordan Travis and Johnny Wilson, they're back for another season. Jordan Travis is entering his 6th season at quarterback and has fit everything Florida State has needed at the helm. He limits his mistakes. He's deadly accurate on 3rd downs and can drive deep balls down the field. Oh, yeah, he also can move with his legs when needed. He notched 400 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns last year. And if he keeps at this pace, he could find himself on an NFL squad next year. And the guy he'll be throwing to, Johnny Wilson, he's 6'7", 240 pounds, so pretty large for a wide receiver. He had 897 yards and 5 scores in 2022. But the best player on this team comes on the defensive side of the ball. It's the absolute monster junior defensive end, Jared Verse. Originally from Albany, he was one of the most important national transfers last year as he piled up a team-high 9 sacks and 17 tackles for loss. And yeah, forgot to mention this guy is an absolute lock to be a top 10 pick next year. And if the cards fall right, he could find himself in like the top 3. He's that good of a player. Their most important game is week 4 at Clemson, where they have lost for the past 7 straight seasons. Win this game, and they're a lock for the ACC championship. Lose, and I still think they have a really, really good shot to get there now that divisions aren't coming into play. Should be a very good season for the Seminoles. I have them going 10-2 in the regular season, losing to Clemson that first time, but finally getting the best of Clemson when it matters most in the ACC championship.
Braden, he's calling out your team. Fight him.
They got the same record, so unless anybody else has somebody going higher than 10-2, he's right. They're going to play in the championship.
I have a team on my shirt going 12-0, but we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You're switching your wins and losses there, Wags.
Wow.
Oh, UVA is not doing better. Both teams are going 0-2.
Should I put Lane North back up there? No, I'm just kidding.
Brent, my day.
Brent, what is your opinion of the Cheez-It Bowl rooms, the hotel rooms?
I haven't seen them.
What?
I haven't seen the rooms.
Hold on. I gotta find it. Braden, have you seen them?
I haven't.
Oh, you guys are going
decorated.
Maybe.
You'll see.
Oh,
I'm excited. I'm getting hungry too.
Me too.
Go grab a snack while I'm looking it up.
Maybe I'll grab some Cheez-Its.
Do you have Cheez-Its?
This isn't an advertisement.
I was going to say, are they paying for this airtime?
Oh, that is sweet.
Oh my goodness.
You're telling me you don't want to live in that?
It looks like an 8-year-old's bedroom.
I don't think I could sleep.
That would give
in
me
that
height.
room.
It literally looks like SpongeBob is just all over the walls.
And this is at the Cheez-It Hotel?
Yeah, man, at the Cheez-It Bowl. MVP gets to sleep in it.
That's sweet.
So Jordan Travis was having a great time. All right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Come on. You know you would stay there. You would spend at least $250 a night.
Oh, I'd spend more than that.
Me and my lady have tickets for the Cheez-Its.
And with that, we're going to go to Miami, Florida. Connor, take her away.
You missing one?
No shot.
Oh, yeah, you missed Georgia Tech, buddy.
Oh, no. We're doing Miami. So why don't you just fly into it?
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. So, Miami, they went 5-7, 3-5 in conference last year. One of those wins was the worst game of football I have ever watched over ESPN Gamecast, where they beat UVA in, I think it was like triple overtime. And just a deeply upsetting game where the only points were field goals over 4 quarters and at least 2 overtimes. Not a great day in my life. The last time they won the division, or they didn't go to a bowl game last year. Last time they won the division, they got shellacked by Clemson 38-3 in the 2017 ACC championship game. They got Mario Cristobal coming back for his 13th year, a pristine 67-67 record.
Perfect.
On his back.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, this is his second year of Miami, by the way. That's 67-67 overall. So they're bringing back quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, who was, I think, a 5-star coming out of high school, right?
That guy's a nightmare to the Hokies.
Yeah, that's the only team he plays well against.
Apparently.
Last year, he was hurt a lot. He got benched at least twice, one of which was the UVA game from Heck. 253 attempts, 844 yards, 63%, 10-5 TD to interception ratio, and an almost perfectly average QBR. I think it was 81st in the country. You get where I'm going with this team.
Oh, yeah.
So player to watch on offense. You guys were not given enough love to the offensive linemen, in my opinion. So I've
I
got
love offensive lineman love.
Yeah, so they've got guard Javian Cohen, who is a Bama transfer, former second team All ACC last year, preseason All ACC this year. He's 6'4", 205. He's an interior presence. Honestly, it was a good year this year. He's a second day pick in the NFL draft. He's big. He moves people. He's good in pass protection. He's good in run protection. If he can keep Van Dyke upright and away from all the just god awful big guys playing middle in the ACC. Everyone has like a 350 guy now. If you can keep Van Dyke clean off of those guys, then that's going to have a nice trickle-down effect. And Miami might even be good for the first time since we were born, more or less.
They do have one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah, 2003.
way back.
Yeah. Player to watch on defense, Cam Kinchins. He's a junior safety. He's an All-American last year, All-ACC first team. He was nearly consensus All-American, too, for what it's worth. He had 6 picks, 50 tackles, forced fumble, 1.5 TFLs. He's not an in-the-box safety. He's a center field type guy. Think Earl Thomas on the Seahawks playing that cover 3. He just sits in center field and he ball hawks. He's not at all a Virginia Tech Cam Chancellor guy. So I think he's due for a little regression. Quarterbacks just aren't going to throw at him this much this year. He's not going to get 6 interceptions again. But he's another guy that if he plays well, he's really going to elevate the whole unit. And again, he's looking at a mid-round draft pick, round 2, round 3, round 4 this April. Game to watch for them, Week 11 at Florida State. They have a couple games before that. They play Clemson in October. But I really think Florida State, the Battle for Florida, both teams are going to be fully motivated. If Miami plays it up to their recruiting ranking, which is a big if, they haven't done that in, again, 20 years. But if they can play up to that recruiting ranking, they're going to be playing for that ACC championship spot against Clemson, against Florida State in Week 11. And I've got them going 9-3 this year. Anyone think that's a little optimistic?
No, I mean, I've heard a lot of optimism around Miami this year, so we'll see. But that seems to happen a lot, so
they've hit the portal pretty hard, but I think that this is a year that it could work out for them for better or for worse.
When you were talking about the offensive guard in Cohen, the Bama transfer, you were talking about how he needs to keep Tyler Van Dyke upright. Tyler Van Dyke's the question mark for me for this Miami team is because he scrambles out of the pocket so often. If he can take that extra second to either step into the pocket or trust his guys and make those big throws, they have the weapons to do so. So that 9-3, if Van Dyke takes that leap from year 2 to year 3, that's a team I don't want to play this season.
Yes, exactly. And I have an optimism for this team that I do not have for the other two I'm talking about later. So stay tuned.
Hey, at least he's honest about it, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, the Virginia rant is coming.
I feel like we should all turn off our cameras for UVA and just have a huge screen of Connor. And just boom. He's like, listen.
Big brother, but I'm just complaining about Tony Elliott for 20 minutes.
The more superior Tony of the sports teams, right?
Definitely.
Oh God, don't get me started.
This is why we can't put Hokies and Cavaliers in the same pot. All right, we're heading to a team that did pretty well but needs Lamar back still.
They do. They do need Lamar back because the guy that they got this year had some problems last year. We'll talk about him. The Cardinals went 8-5, 4-4 last year, or 4-4 in the conference. They beat Cincinnati in the Fenway Bowl, 24-7, and they were co-champions of the Atlantic Division with Clemson back in 2016. That's the last time they've done anything in the ACC. Jeff Brom is a first-year head coach. It's his 10th year overall. He's gone 66-44 in his tenure. He's coming from Purdue. He coached them from 2017 to 2020 and head coach Western Kentucky prior to that. Their quarterback is Jack Plummer. He's not related to Jake Plummer. He's a redshirt senior transferring from Cal. He was at Purdue before that. So he's following his former head coach. Last year he did pretty well with 3,119 yards, 21 touchdowns to 9 picks. My player to watch on offense is Brian Hudson. We got some more offensive line love. He's a center. He's former Virginia Tech all-around athlete. This guy is an athlete. He's 6'4", 310. He started 12 games last year for Louisville at center. He's very versatile. He can play anywhere on the line. And last year he played 852 snaps, which led the team. So he's also very available. He's also a huge talent in track and field, throwing, shot put, and discus. My player to watch on defense. This defense last year was a top 25 scoring defense in the country, allowing just 19.2 points per game, and led the nation with 49 sacks total. This front seven is very, very good. There's too many guys to talk about, so I'm going to talk about somebody in the secondary. He just happens to have a great name. His name is Storm Duck. Just going to let that sink in for a second. Storm Duck. He's a redshirt senior, cornerback, transfer from North Carolina. Last year, he did pretty good. He did okay. 46 tackles, 3 picks, 9 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, and should easily be the best player in the secondary for the Cardinals. The most important game to watch for them is Week 5 at NC State. It's going to show how this team stacks up in the ACC this year. It's Friday night in-conference game with everyone watching, and it's against a pretty decent opponent in NC State in the Wolfpack. I have them going 6-6 this year, clinching that bowl game, but taking a bit of a step back.
How are they only winning 6 games with Storm Duck?
I don't know. He can't do it by himself.
Him and General Booty need to get together.
They do.
They have a lot.
Don't forget to Coldest Crawford.
I cannot comment anymore on this discussion. I will remove myself until we can go forward. Oh, dear goodness, gravy gracious. Okay, we're going to move on here to another team that's usually great at basketball that had a phenomenal football season. We're talking about the UNC Tar Heels, probably one of the greatest offensive scoring teams in the 2022 season. They lit up the absolute firecracker world. They played out of their mind. The problem was their defense was the worst thing I've seen since the back-to-back 0-16, 1-15 Cleveland Browns Hugh Jackson era. This defense is garbage. All 5 of their losses, their 5 losses is when their offense were putting up like 45 points, and because they didn't put up 46, they lost. If they had a top 100 defense, UNC would have smoked competition last season, and they would have been able to defeat Clemson in the ACC championship without a doubt. They need some help, and here's what's going to happen. They went 9-5, 6-2. They lost to Oregon 27-28 in the Holiday Bowl. One of those rare games. They lost 28-27. Okay, all right. So that wasn't 50. They last won the ACC championship in 1980. It has been a long time coming for the basketball blue blood. They are hopeful behind entering their 5th season, 30-22, who had a remarkable year in Mac Brown. Extremely excited for him going into year 5 as UNC fans. But even more than Mac Brown, this team is excited about the kid. Sophomore quarterback Drake May put his name on the map last season. 4,321 yards and 38 touchdowns through the air, only 7 interceptions, and on the ground nearly 700 yards and 7 additional touchdowns, totaling 45 on the year. Drake May did that as a freshman.
Trash.
Okay. Wow.
I'm just messing.
Anyways, I'll save the rest of my spiel here while I continue through. The player to watch on offense is going to be the transfer from Kent State, Devontae Walker. He's a junior. He had 58 receptions, 921 yards, and 11 touchdowns with Kent State last season. Very respectable, looking to be Drake May's number 1 target coming into 2023. But on defense, now I said this defense was terrible, and it was, because it was like watching the 2012 through 2014 Carolina Panthers, where Luke Kuechly was the only dude that could do anything. Because Cedric Dre, the senior linebacker, had 144 tackles, 82 of those on his own, only 1 sack, but he was playing more coverage than anything else, 6 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, and did have 2 picks with 20 interception return yards. Cedric Gray has been listed on the 2024 NFL Draft as a SmackDown top 10 defensive player to be drafted. He is going to get drafted night 1 unless something crazy occurs this season. He probably could have gone pro this year in the 2nd round, in my opinion, but I love that he's returning for his senior season there in Chapel Hill. With that combination between that power 3, if anybody is just easily as helpful as being as reliable as like Brandon Cooks playing offense in a defensive manner, if he can get some help on defense, this team is actually scary. This team can actually get it done behind Drake May, behind Mac Brown. I don't have full faith in UNC in their defense. I mean, it's been a problem for years and years and years. I mean, the Hokies put up a ton of points on them last year, and we had one of the worst offenses in the nation. With that being said, there is a highlight. They are going to win something. UNC is going to go 9-3, but Drake May is going to win the Heisman next year.
No.
Yes.
No.
100%.
No.
Drake May put up a monster season. He's getting in a great addition at wide receiver. He's got a 1-2 punch at running back to take some pressure off of him. With all this information surrounding Caleb Williams with the number 1 pick coming next year, with the Pac-12 blowing up, I think Drake May takes full advantage of that, makes a case for himself, and I would love to see the kid win it as a sophomore, take his name to the NFL draft, and easily be a first-round pick. Heck, he could be in the top 5. I'm not even kidding. I have so much love for this guy. Love the way he plays the game. Love the dual threat capability. I mean, I love the kid.
He'll probably be number 2 overall. I mean, if it's a quarterback needy team, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
That's my spiel. Feel free to comment.
He's going number 2 overall to the Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets got to play poorly for that.
Yeah. I stand by that. Aaron Rodgers is washed. Get on that train.
I'm pessimistic too.
Hard Knocks, guys. It's coming up. Way to shout it out.
Tonight.
It's today, yeah.
What?
That's tonight.
It's tonight. It's on right
You
now.
have to wait until tomorrow morning now, Wes.
You're telling me I did a podcast during Hard Knocks? What are you guys letting me do? That's like planning a wedding in the fall. Unbelievable. You know what? I'm not excited anymore, so I'm going to tune out while you talk about the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, honestly, if you guys did want to tune out for this part of the podcast, it might be a good time. I didn't do a ton of research on Georgia Tech. It was kind of sprung on me at the last minute, but it's not a very relevant team, so I don't think a lot of relevant information needs to be said. Georgia Tech, they're the Yellow Jackets. Last year, they had a record of 5-7, going 500 within the conference, 4-4. That was not good enough for a bowl. Last time they won the division was 2009. They actually won the conference championship against Clemson, 39-34, but it was later vacated due to some improper benefits going on. So, little shadiness. The head coach, Brent Key, great name by the way. It's his 2nd season. At quarterback, it's a little bit of a toss-up, a little bit of a controversy. It's Jeff Sims, who had 1,115 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, against Zach Pyron, 565 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 picks last year. So we'll see who starts week 1 for the Yellow Jackets. The other player to watch on offense is Dante Smith. He's a senior running back. He had 420 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. And the player to watch on defense is LaMiles Brooks. 34 tackles, 3 picks, and 1 touchdown last year. He might be the best player on this team. It's not a great roster. With that being said, their most important game is SC State Week 2. They can actually beat that team. So that's why it's an important game. But anyway, with that, record prediction, 3-9. 3-9.
Didn't South Carolina State beat the Dion Jackson State team in the SWAC conference championship last year? I want to say
They might have. I'm not familiar with.
I want to say they were the best HBCU team,
but they might beat Georgia Tech. Now that you say that,
Connor, you gotta remember that Brent cares about nothing but the MAC. Okay,
Yeah.
he doesn't
I'm
care.
so sorry.
Once we did the MAC conference, Brent has tuned out. He does not care anymore.
He's just collecting his paycheck.
Mhm.
Wait, you guys are getting paid? What am I doing here?
We'll talk about my fee later.
Georgia Tech hasn't done anything interesting. Brent hinted on it since the 2009 season. A super quick recap of that is they were put on 4 years of probation, fined the school $100,000, and stripped its ACC title game victory from Georgia Tech. There was also some men's basketball problems, but the big thing was that the NCAA found out that Georgia Tech and Demarius Thomas accepted $312 worth of clothing.
it's a lot of money.
I think that might be my total volume of clothing owned.
I thought he was going to say total volume in my bank account.
That too.
Oh, I wish.
I
You guys have $312? So lucky.
Wait, I thought it was $3.12.
There you go. That's more like it.
Now,
All right, guys. I'm gonna go grab some popcorn.
Right. I'm going to try and keep it together. I'm going to lead off. So I go to the school. I care deeply about this team. I will also say that I've been 2 months nicotine free, and football season is going to break me. So UVA last year went 3-7, did not play the final 2 games due to the tragic shooting of Lavelle Davis Jr., Lavelle Davis Jr., and 2 others were killed. And Mike Hollins and another track athlete whose name I cannot remember were injured but ultimately survived. So there's a lot of, just in the wake of the tragedy, it's just an addition to a team that already had deeply terrible vibes. The day before that game, I sat in the press box and I watched then quarterback Brennan Armstrong throw picks on his first 2 passes, pick sixes on his first 2 passes against Pitt. And that was not the worst point in the weekend. So it's this UVA team is coming from a very low season. The last time they won their division was 2019 behind Bryce Perkins and, oh gosh, they beat this team from Blacksburg for the first time in a long time, I think. I don't know. That was a great game to watch.
Didn't you guys throw it to an offensive lineman one year?
We don't need to talk about it. It was 28. I was at that game live, and I texted my editor for the newspaper after. I was like, can I write 1,500 words on that one play? And he said, my heart says no, but we do not have the word budget for that on the website right now. So we're not going to talk about that. In 2019, we got just obliterated by Clemson in the championship game. They had Trevor Lawrence. We had Bryce Perkins and some magic beans. It's fine. Coach is Tony Elliott. He's 3-7. He's going into his second year. Tony Elliott, he's such a nice guy. I've interviewed him twice, but I don't understand his offensive philosophy. In a time when the college game and even the NFL is moving away from your so-called pro-style offense, he is just leaning into it to a degree that does not make sense from a recruiting angle or from a tactical angle. He wants to run the ball or 30 times a game, but he also included in his definition to an on-the-record review, short passes and screens count as runs in his book. Which, if that doesn't, that just wants, and watching that team wanted me to put me to sleep last year because it was just only short runs and bubble screens. Our quarterback situation, Brennan Armstrong transferred to NC State in October. He was a top 10 Heisman candidate going into last year after just a simply incredible 2021. And then in Tony Elliott's offense, he had the team dropped from 3rd in the country to 102nd in the country in total offense. It was just absurd to watch a team that had not lost no personnel except maybe 3 offensive linemen just completely shatter. So Armstrong is now transferred to NC State. We'll get to him later. And our presumptive quarterback going into the summer, Jay Woolfolk, gave up football to full-time play baseball as the closer for the UVA team and the U.S. national team this summer. So that's a whole nother thing. Right now, the guy that they have starting is admittedly a great QB name, Tony Muskett, who is a transfer from do any of you three just blinds know where he transferred from?
I think it was Boston College.
Worse. No. Monmouth.
That's right, yeah.
An FCS school in New Jersey, a famous football hotbed, where he threw for under 2,000 yards and completed 60% of his passes, ran a little, and had a roughly 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Just in Madden when you like create a new team and you just get a stock white quarterback. It's this guy. He's like 66 overall. He'll be okay. His main target this year is going to be a transfer from Northwestern, a program with no problems that is doing great right now, Malik Washington. He's a senior slot receiver. He's like 5'9", so he would still be the tallest member of this podcast.
Yeah, probably.
How tall are you these days?
5'11". He's close.
Are you taller than me, Braden?
He's close.
Okay, so he's almost the tallest member of this podcast.
He said from a program that's having no problems right now, and nobody said anything.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Northwestern is having no issues right now and is not getting kicked out of the Big Ten for like UCLA or Stanford or something.
Big Ten's in 2 weeks. We'll get there.
Oh God. He had 65 receptions. He's a reliable, but only 694 yards off of those. So he's not averaging a lot after the catch. He's just a safety blanket. Muskett seems like a guy who's going to like his safety blanket. So I expect this guy to have, 90 receptions for 700 yards this year and maybe 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side, we have my Lord, my Savior, my God, Chico Bennett Jr. He had 7 sacks, 7.5 TFLs, and 2 forced fumbles last year. The 2 forced fumbles, I remember one of them vividly was against Georgia Tech and is the only reason we won that game, which is, I'll remind you, one of 3 games UVA won, somehow pulling one out on the road in Atlanta. Most important game. I cannot stress to you, this season, in the grand scheme of things, does not matter what happens on the field for UVA football. We've had so many people leave. The team is just a complete mess. It was like all transfer outflow, no positive transfer inflow. The vibe around the team is just terrible right now. This year is just about fixing the vibe and making sure that recruits still want to come here and we don't get left out of any future SEC negotiations. So you just got to put up face, win 3 games, and I think a home Friday night game, which that is probably the best atmosphere you can experience at UVA. That's not a night game against Tech. It is a Friday night game against an ACC opponent. We get NC State. It'll be Brennan Armstrong returning to Charlottesville.
That's dope.
From the bottom of my heart, I hope he regresses further, and UVA pulls one out here. I have the Who's going 3-9. They're going to get William and Mary at home. It's an FCS team. And I know like 4 or 5 players because I used to play soccer with them, which is generally a bad sign for your football program.
Malachi?
Yeah, Malachi and a couple
Yeah.
other guys. Yeah. Malachi is a really nice guy, though. And then Georgia Tech, they might be better than UVA this year, but there's just a power that UVA has over Georgia Tech. Running back like into the 90s, where Georgia Tech's good, but they'll always just stumble in Charlottesville. And then NC State, BC, Louisville, or Tech, one of those guys will trip at the wrong time and lose to UVA. We can have a Tech UVA debate at the end, but all right, I made it through the Virginia segment. I'm going to go take a Tums now.
Go throw up if you need to.
That just talking about them giving me nicotine cravings, man.
That's not what a college should do that you pay to go to school for.
I mean, they're paying me a fair amount at this point, so.
Well, there we go. We made it through UVA, and we made sure you had another team afterwards, so that's not your last thought after this podcast. So
yeah,
we're good to go there. Braden, tell me about the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Connor. We had to go into Brennan Armstrong immediately after, so I apologize about that. They went 8-5 last year, 4-4 in the ACC. They lost to Maryland in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, 12-16. An absolute barn burner there. Their head coach is Dave Doran. It's his 11th season with NC State. He's gone 72-54. It's his 13th year as a head coach overall, 95-58 in his tenure overall. So it's pretty solid, pretty good record. Like we said before, his quarterback is Brennan Armstrong, graduate transfer from Virginia. Last year, Armstrong was a shoo-in for the NFL before the season started. Top 5 quarterback prospect after a stellar year in 2021. 2022 was just a bit of a step down on a not-so-great UVA team, and his draft stock tumbled. I've looked into a bit of different some sources rank him anywhere from 250th prospect to 700th prospect in the NFL for the coming year. So he tumbled. He tumbled quite a bit. Last year he had 2,210 yards, 7 touchdowns on 12 picks. Doran is hoping that Armstrong still has that talent that he had in 2021, and he's hoping that he can bring that back out. But unfortunately, offense was not the strength of this team last year. The offensive line is decent, it's solid, so the run game should be better than it was last year, and the receiving game could use a bit of work. Their top 2 guys left, leaving Keon Lassane. He's a senior wide receiver who last year had 342 yards, 2 touchdowns on 31 catches. We should see an increased workload this year, but the offense still doesn't look too great. They're a top 20 defense in the country, however. That was definitely the strength of the team. There is a bit of turnover, especially in the linebacker room. So we're going to skip over the linebacker room and look at Aiden White. He's a junior quarterback with 46 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and 9 passes deflected. The defense will still be the strength of this team, and this team should still be pretty solid. It's just up to Brennan Armstrong and that offense to see if they can continue the momentum that they built last year. The game to watch is Week 9 versus Clemson, taking on the top dogs of the ACC. They don't have Florida State on the schedule, so this is their biggest game in the schedule and likely the toughest one, along with Notre Dame in Week 2. I have this team being carried by their defense yet again and going 8-4 one more time.
Braden, I'm going to say I almost exactly put in print the words, if Brennan Armstrong can keep this offense's momentum going, then we'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And you saw how that went for UVA. So I'm going to just enjoy that one.
Oh, no.
Look what you're doing to Connor.
I'm sorry. We'll get away.
It's back out. I'm staying strong, but it's there.
Jeez. Just absolutely kicking the guy at the knees before draft day even happens.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Again, that's after this. We're talking college football. According, I can't remember if it was Brent or Braden for one of the mascots that would either win in a fight or on the coolest mascots, the Syracuse Orange, baby.
Yeah, I think it was me.
Otto the Orange, one of the scariest guys ever. So Braden, why do I like the Syracuse Orange here?
Well, Syracuse, I don't really want to talk about them because I talked about them last year and that didn't go too well. My prediction was a little bit off, just a little bit.
Okay, so we usually like to replace bad memories of things with good memories of things, right?
Mhm.
So I can't exactly say the wording of it, but happy birthday.
Go Cuse.
Go Qs.
Go Cuse. Best beat-ups moment ever. Anyways, the
Mhm.
Syracuse Orange went 7-6, 4-4 last season. They lost 20-28 to Minnesota in the Pinstripe Bowl. That 8-point loss, much closer than the one before in 2021, where Virginia Tech lost by 40. Last time they won the conference, hold on, let me look it up. I left the thing blank, so I don't really know what it is. Hold. Oh, wait, it was never. That's right. They have never won the ACC for good reason. Basketball school. Got just a basketball school. They're going in behind the head coach. I think it's Dino Babers is how you pronounce his name. 36-49. He's entering his 8th season there with the Orange. And yeah, they have some problems. The biggest problem for the Syracuse Orange is the fact that they lost star running back Sean Tucker, who had a huge presence on Twitter with his game performances, actually. He used to tweet every single game, I played good today. I played bad today with blank yards, da-da-da-da. But we're back at it next week. Next opportunity, next chance, next man up, like all that stuff. So he's a super motivational dude. They're definitely going to be missing that in the locker room. Going over with senior quarterback Garrett Schrader, he had a pretty dual threat, decent year last season. He had 2,640 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, as well as he carried the ball 150 times, had 453 yards. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. In 2021, he had 14. So he plays a little Jalen Hurts style ball over there in Syracuse. His top receiver is the same guy. It's going to be Oronde Gadsden II. He's a junior wide receiver. He had 61 receptions, close to this 1,000 mark with 969 yards and 6 touchdowns. Their senior linebacker Marlo Wax is also a huge guy to watch. He had 88 tackles, 55 of those were on his own, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 pass deflections. Look for him to get in the backfield this season, especially coming into his senior season. My game to watch for the Orange is going to be Week 8 in Lane Stadium, actually at Virginia Tech. So the Hokies are definitely going to want revenge from a crucial 2021 loss that just slapped them off the face of the earth after being ranked as high as number 15 earlier that year. That loss sent the Fuente era into a absolute dumpster fire, sent Virginia Tech spiraling into the ground, and then they capped off the season defeating UVA 29-24.
Bad.
The biggest reason for me for the Orange that Lane Stadium Virginia Tech is that game to watch is because they come to Lane Stadium after playing against Clemson, UNC, and Florida State back to back. And then they're coming into one of the most difficult environments to play college football in after already being tired after just getting smacked 3 straight weeks. So morale could be down. That's a game to watch for them. I have them going bowling. They'll go 6-6. Garrett Schrader's a great quarterback. He's got a lot of upside potential, and Oronde Gadsden is probably going to enter the NFL draft after this season as well. So promising there for the Orange. They're not getting squeezed into orange juice. We're maybe just cutting to orange slices this year. But yeah, that's the Orange. I'll send it over to a team that Virginia Tech fans love when they sing Sweet Caroline too.
Yeah. Up next, we got the Pitt Panthers. Eat shit, Pitt. Gotta love it.
He just said it.
Just went for it.
Much like the Seminoles, the Panthers ended their season on a high note, winning their last 5 in a row. That was good enough for a final record of 9-4, while going 5-3 within the conference. They capped off their season with a bowl game win over UCLA with a final score of 37-35 in another great bowl name, Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. You don't have to go back too far to get to their last conference championship. Kenny Small Hands Pickett led the Panthers to a 45-21 win over Wake Forest in the ACC title game 2 seasons ago. The head coach spot has been pretty consistent for the Panthers the past 9 seasons. It's Pat Narduzzi, who has notched an impressive record of 62-41 and 41-25 within the conference during that time. At the quarterback spot, it's going to be Boston College transfer Phil Jurkovec. Last season for the Eagles, he went for 1,711 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 picks. So not the greatest stats, but there's a lot of optimists out there due to the fact he was a pretty big recruit for Notre Dame at one time.
Brent,
so
can I hop in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jurkovec was one of those players for Boston College. He got hurt a lot last season. So that stat line, he wasn't around for a lot of it. And even when he was battling through injury. I remember Jurkovec is the guy that you did not want to see at quarterback. And when they played in Lane Stadium in I think it was week 3 or 4, the only ACC game that that Virginia Tech won, Jurkovec was a game time decision and did not play. And you just felt the anxiety in the stadium just drop. He has a hell of an arm. He is an NFL draft talent prospect. He's someone to watch, especially with a huge entity for Pitt. But Brent, go ahead.
He's definitely an improvement over Keaton Slovis. I just want to say that Keaton Slovis was not the guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know the exact stars, but I want to say he was a 4 or 5-star recruit for Notre Dame.
Well, Joe and I just went to Google that at the same time.
I'll wait for the results.
He'll probably get there faster than me. He's an editor.
Oh, I don't edit. I just write. They won't let me edit.
I'm looking. He signed in Notre Dame. He was the class of 2018.
He's been around a while.
He's only 2 years older than us.
He signed with Notre Dame in 2016
when we were high school freshmen.
Holy crap. That was before we were in high school freshmen. He signed May 16th.
Oh my God.
He was a 84 ranked 126 in the top 300 4-star, 3rd in the state of Pennsylvania, 9th overall in his position.
Okay.
Oof.
And cannon of an arm was on the scouting report.
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, he was a great prospect. We'll see how he stacks up this year for the Panthers. The other guy to watch on offense is Rodney Hammond. He's a junior running back. Last season, he had 459 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, serving in more of a limited role. He capped off the season with 93 rushing yards and a couple of touchdowns in that bowl game against UCLA. Switching to the defensive side of the ball, Pitt fans are still wishing they had Kalijah Cansey disrupting things for opposing passers. That guy was a beast last year. Fortunately for them, though, they do have one of the best corner tandems in the ACC with MJ Devonshire and Marquise Williams back. Devonshire had 32 tackles, 7 passes deflected, and 3 picks last year, while Williams had 24 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 picks of his own. It's going to be hard for quarterbacks to throw on those guys. For their key game, I have it as Week 4 versus UNC. Pitt has a bit of a rough schedule this year with Cincinnati, WVU, Notre Dame, and obviously the ACC foes on the docket. They could use a win against the UNC team who has won 7 of their last 9 against the Panthers. I do have the Panthers taking a bit of a step back next year, but they'll still be plenty good to make a bowl game. I predict them going 7-5.
Hey, we had a former Pitt Panther scoring the first touchdown of the NFL preseason. Israel Abenikinda, first touchdown.
Nice.
One of my favorite players to watch in person. 320 yards and 6 touchdowns against the Hokies.
And I
That's
loved
great.
every second of it.
In one game in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at Heinz Field.
Heinz Field.
Sorry. I can't actually say it. I'm not gonna. That T-shirt that says it's called Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, I almost bought. I wanted it so bad. It was awesome. Anyways, for the Pitt Panthers, I think that 7-5 is definitely something that is very attainable, and I definitely think there's a huge upside to that record as well, especially if Jurkovich is actually playing lights out. But losing to Abanikanda is just a slap in the face, and he, in my opinion, is going to be the next Khalil Herbert. How Khalil Herbert started his career with the Bears and worked his way up to where he's going to be a starter this year, or at least a huge presence. I know that running back room is thick there in New York, but
The Jets just collect running backs. They just collect running backs.
They just
Dalvin Cook to the Jets.
If that happens, then I might just draft all of them.
Yeah,
I'll draft
triple handcuff.
Give me Abanikanda, give me Dalvin Cook, give me Breece Hall, and give me Michael Carter. I want all of them. Just because I feel like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Anyways, you said you had some interesting things here, Connor, with Wake Forest, so I'm excited to hear what it is.
Alrighty, so Wake Forest, who, Demon Deacons, that's one of the names in college sports. Last year they went 8-5, 3-5 in conference, a little disappointing, but they still managed to beat Mizzou in the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. I am curious, do you guys know what a Gasparilla is? Because I only learned it this year.
Nope.
So apparently it's a pirate. It's like the Spanish slang term for a pirate, and one of my good friends that I sell with is from Tampa, and she told me about this year. Moving right along past my sailboat themed, side tangent. They won their division in 2021, a year they beat UVA on a Friday night at home in front of me, but lost to Pitt in the ACC championship game, and they got shellacked. Their head coach is Dave Clawson, who is, I think, one of the most underrated coaches in college football. At least 1 or 2 years ago, ESPN did a really good profile on him, and he just seems like a very down-to-earth guy, and he's been consistently getting results with teams that just don't have much of a history of a program. His team before Wake Forest was Bowling Green, and he won bowl games there, which, aside from the pun, is pretty impressive. They're moving on from quarterback this year. Sam Hartman. Too many ACC quarterbacks in the North Carolina named Sam.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman transferred off to Notre Dame, where he will try to lead the Irish on their fruitless quest again to finish 8th in the country and not make the playoff. His replacement is a bit of an unknown, Mitch Griffiths. He started one game when Hartman was hurt last year. He beat VMI, which is an FCS team. And he went 29-41, 348 yards, 5 scores and a pick against, again, a simply lower class defense. So he's a bit of an unknown. It's an interesting call by Clawson not to bring in a bigger name through the portal, someone established and truly great like Tony Muskett. But I really think he has faith in Griffiths. Griffiths not quite as mobile as Hartman, but still has some potential. Player to watch on offense, another short king, 5'10" slot receiver, senior Taylor Morin, who went to high school in Nova. He's from, either Ashburn or Chantilly, I think. But last year he's the returning leading receiver for them. They lost
Centerville.
A.T. Perry. What was that?
Centerville.
Oh, Centerville. Okay. Centerville and Chantilly are the same thing in my head. And I feel like that's a supported motion among the group. Morin, again,
Yeah.
King, white boy, Julian Edelman vibes. He went 47, 575, and 9 last year, catching a lot of touchdowns from Hartman. He figures to be a safety blanket for Griffiths again. But he notably has a lot of shake after the catch. So much so that a couple publications have him first team all ACC as a punt returner this preseason, which, again, very Julian Edelman vibes is all I'll say. On the defensive side, their sack leader, Jasheen Davis, returns. He's a big boy in the middle, but he's not as big as most guys in the middle in the ACC. He's only 6'3", 250, which, again, would make him the tallest person on this podcast. But on an NFL or on an NCAA line, that's not that big. Still, he's a quick guy. He got 7 sacks, 14 TFLs, and a clutch forced fumble last year. And with a bit more investment behind him, he could wreak even more havoc this year. Most important game of the year, they get Clemson at Clemson in week 6. Before that, they have 4 just absolute gimme games and a bye. I have it pulled up here. It's week 1 against Elon, which is an FCS team, W. Week 2 against Vanderbilt, which, come on, it's Vanderbilt. W.
Best team of the SEC. Come on now.
Again, you're trading your wins and your losses there, bud. ODU, which almost all power conference teams would beat handily. Sorry.
If you can't beat them, take all their players. That's all.
Yeah, I was going to say I have jokes about that later. Don't worry. And then Georgia Tech. So they're conceivably going to be entering mid-October, going into Death Valley undefeated. Not potentially, more than likely. So that really is going to be the barometer of their season. And then after that, they have a tough stretch with Pitt, Florida State, and feels worth saying this, a good Duke football team. So it really, that middle stretch of the season is going to decide a lot of things for Wake Forest. I have them going 7-5. I don't think they do well in that middle portion of the season, but I really hope that they do. I like Wake Forest. They're the most spiritually similar school to UVA, I guess one of the most spiritually similar schools to UVA in the ACC, and they don't bother us in sports that we're good at, so they're pretty easy to like.
They got a scary mascot.
The butt chin doesn't really do it for me, but he's not the scariest mascot in the ACC.
I remember him at the ACC basketball tournament walking around the stands, and I was like, please get away from me. Do not come over here.
Did you guys ever play the NCAA football video games where you can play them all mascot mode?
Yes.
I would turn
and for some reason, they were all so fast.
Yes, I would turn it down to like super easy and just beat the crap out of the deacon sometimes, just because it was funny.
It was funny.
All right, those are my Wake Forest takes. Thank you for listening.
Great on Wake Forest there. Don't worry, we didn't have to end with UVA. We are going to end with a Virginia school. Hold on, I need 30 seconds. You guys can still hear me as I'm here.
Does he need to borrow this?
Just walking around. Okay. So welcome to the Sports Outlet Show at night.
It's a soda.
Definitely not sponsored by Love Street Blonde out of Houston, Texas. You got one too, Braden. Okay.
Oh, an empty, but it's okay.
Oh, it's on. You've already been having a rough one then. So if you remember last year, we timed it perfectly without actually trying to time it. At exactly midnight, we started talking about the Virginia Tech Hokies. Well, the clock hit midnight that once and never has again. Okay. Braden, hold on. I need one more.
Take all the time you need, buddy. This is a bad football school support group.
Let's talk some Virginia Tech Hokies football, baby. Braden, let's go.
Yeah, these Hokies, 3-8 last year, 1-6 in the conference. Very, very tough to watch. Obviously, did not make a bowl game, and even if they did, couldn't have been worse than the Pinstripe Bowl the year before. They last won the Coastal back in 2016, in which they lost the conference championship game versus Clemson, 35-42. We last won the conference proper back in 2010. Our head coach is Brent Pry. It's his second year. He's a former Penn State defensive coordinator. He had a pretty disappointing first season, to say the least, but he was trying to make do with Fuente's leftovers, and he's still trying to deal with that this year. This may not be Pry's coming out party, but the recruiting class coming in next year after this one is very promising. So even though I'm not too optimistic about this season, I think we could be a little bit better in the future. So Joe, tell us about Justin Fuente's leftovers and all of Old Dominion.
Yeah, I'd love to, Braden, and I'd love for you if you would just save me in here and talk about some other key players here. I know there are a couple, but these are mostly the three. I'll slap in a couple names as well. But first, oh baby, quarterback's a good position to have, right? People need a quarterback to play football. Oh, do we need it? So you think Brennan Armstrong's a problem? Let me tell you about Marshall transfer quarterback that came in last season on why people that are not in the Power 5 should stay out of the Power 5. Let's talk a little bit about Grant Wells. So I have Grant Wells on here. He had 2,171 passing yards last season, 9 touchdowns and 9 picks. We love being that 1-to-1 ratio. He did have 212 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. What I didn't put in there to mention was 758 fumbles, with 6 of them being on the final drive of a game to try and go down the field and win. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah. One thing about those 212 rushing yards, this is not an exaggeration like those fumbles. That was one on 100 rushing attempts. He averaged 2 yards a carry as a quarterback.
Why? Anyways, welcome to team run slant pass. That was the 2022 Virginia Tech Hokies. Now let's get a little more positive. Let's get some energy flowing here. Braden already touched on it. 2024 might be one of the best recruiting classes Virginia Tech has seen in a decade. Brent Pry's hit the ground running, not just in Virginia, but the surrounding states. The Hokies this season have actually been in the national top 25 for the recruitment in 2024. Couple 4 stars. They're very active on Twitter. They're doing the recruiting too. I think it's Gabe Williams who's at the helm of all that. But super excited for that defensive future. So I said earlier in the podcast, if you can't beat them, take their team. So like the Virginia Tech Enterprise Empire, whatever it used to be back in the early 2000s, we did exactly that. We stole Allie Jennings, the senior wide receiver from ODU, and I'm actually extremely excited about this kid. He had 54 receptions, 959 yards, and 9 touchdowns last season. Also, looking at quarterback play, if Grant Wells is not getting the job done, or possibly even a week 1, the redshirt sophomore transfer, I think it's Kyron Drones, that's a boss last name, by the way. Should be looking to get in some work here. He could be, honestly, the closest thing to the future at quarterback that we have right now. So definitely look for Pry to get him working in, considering Grant Wells is in his final season as a senior. Also talking about Nasir Peoples, he had 30 tackles, 1 pass deflection on defense. He needs to be the guy this year for Virginia Tech. We took a couple other people from ODU, but another couple of those highlights. Braden, I don't know if you have the depth chart pulled up or just know them by name, but the wide receiver trio we have, I'm super pumped about with Allie Jennings, Daquan Felton, and Jalen Lane. I think they're going to be huge to try and provide some offense for the Hokies, since we lost everybody to the transfer portal. And I mean everybody that was good on there.
Sympathy.
Need to figure out the tight end situation, but feeling great at running back behind Malachi Thomas. And have to shout out, expecting him to start at the weak side will linebacker this season. Sharando High School Kelly Lawson should be taking the helm there at linebacker. Former teammate of mine on the JV football team until he got promoted to varsity, because he is an athlete. He's an even better guy. So wishing him the best there in his redshirt sophomore season as well there for Kelly. For Virginia Tech, the most important game on here, I did have it at week 2 versus Purdue. That's our second home game in Lane Stadium. We will play ODU in week 1. Hopefully our elevators work, so we might be able to get a win there in timely fashion. Just saying that's a bold presumption. But revenge game there for a couple of the wide receivers from ODU, so something to look at for Virginia Tech. I'm optimistic about this season. I'm extremely disappointed to not be in Lane Stadium for the greatest college football entrance of any school ever. And if anybody says something, my TikTok feed has 99% Virginia Tech versus UNC 2021 to prove and back up all my claims. But can't wait to see all y'all's videos, see if we can maybe get more than 3 wins this season. Week 2 versus Purdue's that game to watch, but it's obviously the Smithfield-Bacon Commonwealth clash that everybody cares the most about. And this year there's going to be a lot less. This year there's going to be a lot less of talk going into that game because there's going to be unity in Virginia for those that were lost at the end there in Charlottesville. And that's why I love college football, because we might hate each other at the end of the day, but it is all love and support for the football teams, for their families. And that day is just going to be special in itself, besides the fact that the game will probably end 5-3.
It'll be 5-3, and the winner will move to 4-8 on the year.
Well, that's crazy you say that, because my prediction is Virginia Tech to go 4-8.
Let's go.
Connor just confirmed a W in Lane North this year.
I don't think anybody's going to leave Lane North without a W this year.
It's okay. It's okay. Brandon, you got anything else on the Hokies?
Yeah. We talked about Kieran Jones, Ali Jennings. I want to talk about Derek Canteen. He's a redshirt sophomore defensive back, transfer from Georgia Southern. He's listed second on the depth chart right now, but the secondary is the strength of this team on the defense. This guy's been awesome when he plays. He was hurt a bit in 2021, but last year he had 64 tackles, 1 interception, and 12 pass breakups. And he also had 10 pass breakups in the year 2020 before getting hurt. So he can knock the ball out. He will knock out some passes. So I'm excited about him. But like you said, like we all said, it's not a year to look forward for the Hokies, but look forward to us next year.
We just need to get the team ready in 24 for when we play JMU in 25, because I can't keep hearing it. I think that's something UVA and VT fans can agree on, is we both need to win that game.
It's not going to happen either.
I think we have a shot. If,
we have more time to prepare.
Yeah, we got a couple years. We got 2 more years to get ready. But
Scott Stadium, I think, do we have that game at home? I'm pretty sure, but I'm just fully expecting us to be down 20 and the stadium empty at halftime.
Is your football stadium actually called Scott Stadium?
Yeah.
I seriously did not know that.
It's okay. I only have that committed to memories for 2 reasons. One is because I had to put it at the beginning of every article I wrote last year. And then one of the girls that I know at school, that's like her grandfather that donated the money for the stadium.
Oh, that's
because
dope.
UVA is just like that.
Like that.
UVA is just like that. Well, guys, that's the ACC here, and I guess our first official now Power 5 conference, considering the Pac-12 decided to say, I'm going to head out. That's going to be a story we continue to develop here over the next couple of weeks. You'll see it on the podcast if anything else comes to light about that. But, ACC football, guys, we're getting closer to kickoff week 0 starting. I think it's that week of the 26th. Everybody loves week 0 football. You know, you're guaranteed to watch Hawaii play a football game. So, Woo. Anyways, you guys got anything else to say? ACC football related, college football, addiction related for you, Connor? I don't really know.
Check me out. I'll be writing again for the Cavalier Daily in the fall. So check that periodically, and please send zins to my current location.
I won't do the second part, but I did the first part last year, and they're actually pretty good. So when Virginia Tech comes to town, I expect a good article.
I don't know. I'm not on the beat this year, sadly. They're making me do long form stuff. It's the worst.
I expect something great out of you.
I've got some stuff brewing.
Let's do it. Brent, Braden, you got anything?
Let's go Boston College.
Go Eagles.
I don't know what anybody – I'm just going to end this. My name's Joe Wagner. My name's Joe Wagner. Thanks for hanging out with us. Connor needs whatever he was talking about. Brent said go Boston College. Braden says fly, Eagles fly. I say go Hokies. Coming here. Thanks for tuning in to the Sports Outlet Show here again. Huge round of applause. Thank you to Connor for jumping in here at the last minute. Saved our butts with the guest star appearance. Did a fantastic job. And I guess I'm paying him after this. So if you want to donate to our GoFundMe, feel free. Anyways, again, my name is Joe Wagner, Brent Allegra, Braden Wilkins, Connor Lothrop here with the Sports Outlet Show. We will see you guys next week for Big 12, and we're out of here. Peace.